What's up, everyone? Joe Algieri, my good friend Ross, back again. Another episode of the Fantasy Scene, your go-to place for all fantasy daily and season-long advice. Ross, how we doing? How's everything?
Very good. How you doing?
Not too bad, sitting here at work, trying to sell a few cars and give some fantasy advice. This is kind of what I do.
Nice.
So Ross, last episode we went over the catchers. We went over some basic strategies, kind of built up the fantasy world and kind of gave our perspective on what a good league is, and all that. Today we're going to be starting something new. We're gonna cover the first baseman. That's going to be our position of the day. But now we're also going to start breaking down each division, each team, our sleeper from each team, and someone who we feel might be a little bit overvalued or considered a bust. Today we are going to start, in our backyard, the AL East. So we're going to start first and foremost with our first baseman. This is one of the, top tier positions in fantasy. It's considered a power position, corner position. First, right, and third base are usually where you get the bulk of your home runs. And these guys are the ones that are usually targeted pretty early. So, Russ, let's talk about, first baseman. Who is, I know you're a tier guy. Who is the top, the creme de la creme of your tiers?
Well, top of my tier, I would assume top of everyone's tier is Freddie Freeman.
Funny you said that. Right now, our first comment coming in, Crazy Uso, chop on MVP free. Yes, a MVP last year. He had an amazing season. It's definitely, he's got to be in a tier by himself. Correct?
He's number one for me. He's the only person in the top tier, only because it's not just last year. It's the year before and the year before. He is just a perennial guy who can hit. Now, on an Atlanta team that's stacked with hitters, he's going to have another beast season.
So now, is he someone that you consider? And we didn't get, obviously, I didn't even ask you this question because I know your feeling about catchers. Is Freddie Freeman someone, if you have a top 3 pick, is he somebody to consider?
Definitely. He's definitely someone who can, in a points league, points league, he can get you top tier points. He can be a Trout. He can be an Acuna. He can be that guy who gets you the top tier points.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, from what you're saying, it looks as though you would probably put Trout, Acuna, Freeman. Is that would be your 1, 2, 3 basically in any points league?
If I'm going to draft, usually the first pick in the draft I never have because I traded away.
Yeah, well, that's because of course.
I never have.
Well, let's hypothetically say that you actually you were normal and you kept the first pick and didn't trade it away for three chickens and 2 cows.
To me, no matter what, I don't care who's better year to year, who's better last year, who's the best guy. For me, the only best guy year in and year out is Trout. He's number one. For me, he's number one. Number 2, you got to put Acuna and Freeman. I can put them 1, 2, 2, 3, depending on how I feel at the draft.
I know you made one of our other show members, Ray, very happy because he and I have gone back and forth about Mr. Acuna. Again, I have Soto above him in a points league. I feel Soto is the better play, but again,
this is fantasy, bro. This is it's your opinion, of course.
No, of course.
We're gonna have that beast year. Why not? For me, it's not like I don't think he's gonna have. I think he's a top tier player also. So
right, no, of course. So let's see. Crazy Uso is definitely jumping in on the show tonight, and we love to have you here. So for him, top first 5 baseman right now: Freeman, Rizzo, Abreu, a healthy Goldschmidt, and Voit. I think I don't know if I could put Rizzo in that category.
No,
Rizzo for me is kind of fallen off. Obviously, you got Freeman. Abreu had a monster year. He the AL MVP. Goldschmidt.
He's right with a healthy Goldschmidt.
If he's, and now you add for me again, when we get into third baseman, I don't know where I'm, how much of a help he is, but we're going to take Arenado and factor him into Goldschmidt, so he may help him. Voit, listen, I'm a Yankees fan, so he had a big season last year. I'm hoping to see more of it. So I mean, as far as that, yeah. So who is kind of your next two? So
the only thing is, remember that some leagues have different position eligibility.
Right, you were mentioning Bellinger.
If Bellinger qualifies as a first baseman in your league, you have to. I mean, listen, this is my opinion. I have him in my top tier. Him and Freeman are 1-2.
Right. Okay.
And Bellinger, only because Bellinger's a beast. He's in a beast lineup. He's gonna have another great year.
He's consistent.
So it qualifies at first base.
You're right, and it's consistency, and that's kind of what you look for from your first five round picks. Those are guys that you can count on day in and day out. They're gonna produce. You're not really taking too many, long shots in those first 5 rounds. Not if you plan on winning. So I mean, all right. So let's stick to, because I know my list, like I told you off the air, my list doesn't have anyone with like the dual eligibility kind of thing.
Right.
I went strictly first base. So for me, my next two, and we already mentioned it with Crazy Uso. For me, it's going to be Abreu, okay, and it's going to be who did I have? I went a little homer. I said Voit. I really think that the Yankees struck gold with this guy. His lineup, his energy, his everything fits that lineup. He is not looked at as a huge piece. He's not. Listen, you look up and down that lineup. Luke Voigt's not the guy that you're looking at is going to beat you. But most times last season, he was the guy that carried the Yankees. 22 home runs, had a monster year. Again, do I think he's going to hit 50 home runs like he was on pace to? No. But I think that within that lineup, pending again, everyone stays healthy, I think he can be a 30 home run guy, and he's right there with Abreu.
I have Voit in my second tier, but the only question mark is, can he do it for a full season? That's the only question mark. Because last year, again, it's abbreviated. So he had that hot streak of 40 games. Is he going to continue to have a hot streak for an entire 160-game season? Who knows? I'm predicting just like you. He should be able to continue to hit home runs, especially in that lineup.
Yeah, but that lineup in that ballpark, I think we could hit home run in Yankee Stadium.
Well, but the thing is, I got Voit in the bottom of my second tier. Like you guys, I mean, I have Abreu, I have Alonso, I have Goldschmidt, and then of course I have. Go ahead,
Ross. Are you crazy, Uso? Because it's funny. Every time you say something, he comments exactly what you're talking about. First off, he has 2 comments. I'm going to put the first one on here just because this one warms my heart, like I was talking about. Ray, read it and weep. Here it is. There is the comment that says it all, okay? There it is. As a Braves fan, I like Soto more than Acuna. That's all I needed to see. That's it. That made my life way better. But this one right here goes to what you were talking about. Pete Alonso, can he be an elite first baseman? This one here, my thing is this. We're in a group chat. We have one Mets fan. You have to have like the token Mets fan in your group chat. You have to have it, right? We argue about this all the time. I don't think Pete Alonso is or can be an elite first baseman. I think that the Mets prior to this season, they built their lineup with the anticipation of a DH, thinking that Alonso was going to be their DH, because really, if you think about it, Dom Smith is the overall better first baseman. He's the overall first baseman, better defensively. And I think Alonso had that one big year where he beat Judge's record. I think it was all, the fans were there. I just don't see it. There's something about him I don't trust. I know that on my list, I have him higher, but it's based on the lineup he's in versus what I think he's actually capable of. I mean, I don't know where do you? I know you said Voit is at the bottom of your tier. Where's Alonso in that second tier?
He's about in the same area as Voit. Can they do it for a full season? I think if I'm going to pick one over the other, I'm going to pick Alonso. I like Alonso a little bit better than Voit. I just think Voit is not the average hitter that hitting for average as Alonso is. I think he can hit for a better average. In doing so, they're both in good lineups. So they're both going to hit home runs. Who's going to hit for more average? That's the guy that's going to be on base more, get more RBIs, get more runs.
See, I feel that Voit. You don't think Voigt's going to be the better average of the two? I mean, right now, like I'm looking at what's going on. I mean, I have Fantasy Pros up. Okay, Fantasy Pros right now, again, it's their projection, but Fantasy Pros has Pete Alonso projected to hit 250, Voit to be almost 270. That's 20 points in
that's
average.
Going on last year, Joe. Remember, that's going on last year.
No, I get it. And by the way, I'm convinced now that you're crazy, Uso. Okay, because now, this guy just posted this. All right. If Muncy and Olsen, where do they? This guy must know you love Muncy, because if he had to have known that. Listen, he has a love affair with Max Muncy. This guy, let me tell you, if he could pay, he might spend 150 on Max Muncy just to get him, because that's his boy. Listen, these two guys, I actually have Muncy on my top 10 list. I know you're a tier guy. I'm a list guy. Muncy's 10 on my list. Olsen, I think I had him at like 7. I had him at 6. These guys, if they were to get their average up, they're definitely jumping to a second tier. Right now, I have them like a third tier. Muncy's probably above Bellinger for you.
Muncy, no, he's not above Bellinger. I agree with Muncy. But Muncy's also in my second tier. He's another. Listen, in the tier are all guys that can catapult above each other. Muncy, he's always a target for me. I would target Muncy before Abreu, Alonso, Goldschmidt, only because I like the player, only because I feel in his lineup he's going to do very well. And let's not forget, going on again, just like Bellinger, going on your league's qualifications for position, LeMahieu also qualifies at first base. I mean, he's first, second, and third, LeMahieu, in most leagues. So you're not going to put him at first if you have him as a second baseman. But he could go to third base, and he could fill in at first base depending on who you have and what kind of injuries. I like multi-position.
Yeah, well, and that's why that's the love obsession with Muncy, is because Muncy right now in some leagues is going to qualify for first, second. Yes. And then I believe, at one point he was catcher, but that was short lived.
No.
Yeah.
No,
he was.
He's there
I believe when he first came up, he qualified as catcher.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not saying recent, but the guy, he always manages to have that that dual eligibility, which is huge. It's huge. It's huge, and that might be one of the most overlooked things in fantasy sports. Really is. So let's talk about
eligibility. Guys that have eligibility, like studs like Bellinger, Muncy, LeMahieu, means that they're so good that they have to get on the field at any position, no matter what. So
Understood.
I mean,
Yeah.
so it's there are utility guys that play a lot of positions, but these are not utility guys. These are studs that give you that extra qualification at different positions, and it helps you. It helps you to have Muncy at second base, and then your guy gets injured. You can put somebody in. You don't know whoever's on your bench. You want to put the best player. It could be
No,
the second is your best player.
absolutely. So a guy that I have on my list that I have high expectations for him. He's the guy who's been loaded with expectations since he came up. Obviously, it's attached to his name. He's coming to the offseason. I think he lost 30 pounds. Vlad Guerrero Jr. The Blue Jays, although I feel are probably one of the more overrated teams in the offseason. I think that they made a lot of great moves. But that's more on the production side. I don't see the pitching on their end. I think Vlad is poised for a good season. He's never going to be that 35, 40 home run guy that everyone projected him to be when he came up, because he had this vicious swing and, attack the ball. But I can see him being a 25, 30 home run guy in the middle of that lineup. I mean, where do you have Vlad?
I have Vlad in my next tier with Olsen, Carlos Santana, and Josh Bell. I have those four.
Yeah, you're Crazy Uso. Yep, you're Crazy Uso. Because hey, look at Crazy Uso's next thing. Can Josh Bell get back to MVP level on a new team? I'm convinced you are Josh Bell. You are the Crazy Uso. All right, I got you. I'm on to you, Ross. I got you. I mean, Josh Bell is another guy that I think a lot of people forgot about. He was kind of buried in Pittsburgh. Not a lot of help, not a lot of anything. He moves to a new team. I mean, I like Josh Bell. I really do. I think Josh Bell has the makings of someone who is going to be underrated, and you're going to get a lot of value for him. And you know what? Not for nothing, he's going to be hitting in front of Juan Soto. He's projected right now to be the 3-hole hitter for the Nationals. Sitting in front of Soto, you're going to see a lot of pitches.
I mean, I have Bell as sort of a sleeper only because of supposed average draft positions. How can Bell be a sleeper when the guy is a home run beast? I don't know. But if people are going to go on numbers of last year, they're going to say Bell wasn't that good. That doesn't mean he is not good. I just don't see it. I see Bell as that guy that can climb to your second tier and possibly lower first tier. He is that good of a hitter. He can hit. Now, does he strike out a lot? Yes. But a lot of first basemen do.
Yeah,
that's their thing.
Absolutely. They definitely do. It's a hit and miss. I mean, right now, again, I'm on Fantasy Pros. They're projecting Josh Bell 270, 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, 81 runs scored. Ross, that those are monster numbers.
That's nice. And I think he can be more than 30 home runs, Joe.
Yeah. I mean, that ballpark is a little bit bigger than where he's coming from in Pittsburgh. But again, I just think the amount of protection he's going to have in that lineup, it speaks volumes to what he's going to be able to get,
That's what I'm saying. Josh Bell has that capability to be that upper second tier kind of guy, if not at the bottom of the first tier. I mean, going to the first tier is a stud. Is Josh Bell a stud? He did have a stud year. So can he be a stud again? Yes. So
right.
That's what you want to look at. A guy that can be a stud, who was a stud already.
Right. So now I'm looking at the Nationals lineup, right? Turner, Soto, Bell, Schwarber. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a lot of production in the first 4 hitters. There's not many lineups that are going to be able to, produce what those front 4 are going to do. You know, that's why I have Nationals are a very sneaky team in that NL East. I think a lot of people they're falling in love with the Mets and the moves that they made, and I get it, you know, and the Braves. But man, if that pitching rotation of Scherzer, Strasburg, Corbin can stay healthy, watch out for the Nationals, man. They are, you know, and then they just forget. How could I forget? They just signed John Lester. John Lester's there for. Like Nationals are there is that might be the
they have a nice
that might be the best division in baseball. It might not be close. It might be the best division in baseball. Yeah. But so I mean, so we're on 2. Who else do you have sitting in that second tier that we didn't mention? Because I know that we have a couple of guys that aren't
the only ones, Joe, are Abreu, Alonso, Goldschmidt, Muncy, LeMahieu. I mean, only if LeMahieu qualifies at first base for you.
Okay.
Obviously, Voit is there also.
No, of course.
But like my thing with Voit and Dom Smith, can they do it for a full season? That's my thing with both.
Okay. So the only name I have. So basically, running down my line, I'm actually going to post it really quickly. So running down my list, you know, obviously Freeman, Abreu, Voit, Alonso, Guerrero. Those are my top 5, and then it's.
I mean, also
everyone is. Then it becomes health. Then it becomes health. You know, I have Olsen, Goldschmidt, Rhys Hoskins is someone that I have big expectations for this year, and then Josh Bell, and then your boy Max Muncy.
I do like Vlad also. Hoskins. I mean, you can bunch him up with a bunch of different guys. I don't see him as. Me personally, I don't see him as
I get you. Look, you're always going to get that one, you know, and again, you know, you're looking at you know, based on what your league allows. You know, you have guys like, you know, Moustakas that's going to cover, you know, Eric Hosmer. You know, you have other guys. You know, Brandon Lowe is a guy that covers first base. Mm-hmm. You know, that you have guys. You have those extra eligibility guys that are gonna, you know, fill in basically for you and say, okay, I can do this, I can do that, you know, I can go from here and here, but and make your lineup a little bit better. Ross, I think you have a question, so I'll ask you. Crazy Uso wants to know, Brandon Belt, what are your thoughts on him?
Belt he's just at the bottom of the list. He's just a guy that you get if nobody else is there. I don't think Belt is anything.
Yeah, he definitely did not live up. You know, he came up strong. At one point, you know, Brandon Belt was a very serviceable, you know, first baseman. Kind of just fell off. Didn't really play out.
I don't give him a lot of value, Joe. I know it's just that he's not that good.
It's just a name. I'll be honest with you, but it's you know what the problem is a guy like him is still going to go in the 13th, 14th round just because it's a name. It's like, oh, I got Brandon Belt, you know, just like there's someone that's sitting around like planning on drafting Albert Pujols.
If there's guys that are there late, there's guys like Hosmer, Trey Mancini, Yuli Gurriel. Those are guys that have potential to be so much better.
You really are him. You really are. You really are. Because I hope Trey Mancini can come back and have a good year. And look who you just mentioned. I am convinced that you are Crazy Uso. There is no doubt in my mind. Ross has hijacked the comment section. He is Crazy Uso. All right, I got you. No problem. I'm on to you. No problem. I'm gonna create
those 3 guys. And I mean, Hosmer, you know, to put him as a sleeper, but he is because
for me, so how do you qualify a sleeper? Like, what is your definition? Not to say definition, but what is it that makes someone fall into a sleeper category for you? Is it like average draft? Like, what is it?
The thing is this. A sleeper is someone who didn't do well the year before, who maybe fell off like say for instance, Mancini hasn't been around for a year and a half, 2 years. Now, that guy's going to come back. People are going to remember him but they're not going to put a lot of value into him because they don't know what he can do. But Mancini at 2019 hits 35 home runs, and he's hit 24 home runs. He's hit so he can hit 290. He can hit the ball for average. He can hit home runs.
Yeah, I mean,
Mancini is on Baltimore, and there's no one else there.
No, there really isn't. They have a cast of characters. They have a couple of guys, a couple of rookies that everyone's looking forward to seeing. But Baltimore, it literally, listen, what does it say when Vegas gives you a 0.0% chance of winning anything? Not even making winning zero. They gave him a 0% chance. Right now, projection wise, again, I'm basing off of Fantasy Pros. That's just what I happen to have up. For Trey Mancini, bouncing back from colon cancer, and it's a great story, and it's going to be something that everyone's going to follow. That the big networks are going to follow him. They got him projected 271, 25 home runs, 77 RBIs, 73 runs scored. If you can get that kind of production late rounds, anything after 12, 13, it's a solid pickup. What's up, Big John? Make sure you catch John and the boys every Tuesday night. Dump and Chase. They've actually made me enjoy hockey. It's like the 6th most popular sport in the world, behind like beer pong, and it's it's just yeah. But no, they're great every Tuesday night. I love the show. But yeah, I mean, for me, a sleeper is someone that. So I look at someone that most people are undervaluing. For me, it's someone that honestly had a bad year, and the same way that you aren't putting any credence into last year, that there are going to be a lot of people that are, for both the good and the bad. So for me is going to be someone who, is going to bounce back. Now, can you turn around and say someone like Gleyber Torres is a sleeper? No, but he's going later. He's going later because last year he hit 3 home runs, but everyone has short-term memory, and they forget that the guy hit 30 plus the year before and is in probably one of the best top 3 lineups in baseball. But whatever.
That's what Hosmer, Joe.
Yeah, listen, Hosmer. If you really look at it, who's looking at Hosmer in that lineup? Because when you look at the lineup, all you see is is my boy Jeff joining the show? Jeff from Monday nights. Jeff,
no.
What's Jeff doing? Jeff. You know what it is, Ross? He heard that we have to have the one token Mets fan. And now, he has to join the show. The Mets just have to be everywhere. Mets fans are everywhere. They really are, man.
They're still a New York team.
Yeah, whatever.
They're not the Yankees, but they're still a New York team.
Yeah, listen, they're like AAA. That's fine. But I mean, so let's start going into our breakdown of the AL East. Okay, speaking of the Yankees, we said that we were going to kind of break down each division. Jeff, you there, or are you kind of just what are we doing? All right, Jeff's gone. So let's go. Let's start with the Yankees. And it could be pitcher, it could be hitter. We are going to we're going to kind of give you one guy that we feel is your stud. Some of them, yes, they're going to be obvious choices, based on some teams. And then we're going to kind of give you a guy that we feel might be a little bit overvalued, someone that might be going a little too high in that draft, So let's start off with last year's AL representatives, the Tampa Bay Rays. I hate this team almost as much as I hate the Red Sox. They're a very scrappy team, but a lot of respect to their ownership. They do it the right way. They got rid of a lot of players this year, but they still have a decent little core. Who's the guy on that team that you think, that you would target from Tampa Bay in terms of production?
Well, my little sleeper, I think, is going to be Archer. I believe that him coming back to Tampa Bay again will put him in the position to start pitching like he used to pitch. That would be my little sleeper, late round guy.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that. I'll be honest with you.
I like Archer.
Okay.
Now, my beast in the lineup there, no matter how you look at it, I think Springer goes into Tampa Bay and has a big year.
No, I think you got it confused. Springer's Toronto.
Oh, Springer's on Toronto. I went to the wrong team. Sorry, guys.
No worries.
Austin Meadows. I think Austin Meadows could have a nice year this year. Now,
okay,
what tier is he going to be in? So generally, Austin Meadows is a second, third tier guy. I believe he can be that upper second tier guy. That's what I like Austin Meadows this year in that lineup.
Okay. So for me, my sleeper in this is, I mean, it's hard to call him a sleeper after the playoffs that he had, but I really believe, I'm going to butcher his last name, but Arozarena, okay? I think that he is going to continue this monster run that he had through the playoffs last year. I mean, the guy literally carried them. I think that, you know, he was one of their more highly touted rookies. He's going to get a lot more playing time. A lot of the bigger bats are gone. You know, I was between him and Brandon Lowe. Brandon Lowe, I think, is more of a steady.
He's a solid hitter.
He's a solid player. You know, especially at second base, he's one of those guys that you're going to be able to expect good, solid power numbers from him. In terms of my sleeper, listen, this team, they live and die by the starter, right? You know, really, if you look about it, if you look at their starting rotation, I know you mentioned Archer. Glasnow is really the only true pitcher that they're going to be able to count on, right? Mm-hmm. I just think that this year, you know, Nick Anderson moving into the closer position, he's going to really, really thrive there. The guy throws heat. He's very, you know, he's poised. He looks like he could handle the big moment. And, you know, being a closer in the AL East is not exactly the easiest thing to be. And I think that he is going to be a guy that he's not the name. There's a lot of closers that you can target ahead of him. You know, he's not that sexy name. And I think that Nick Anderson is going to be a guy that's going to win people a lot of leagues on the rotisserie side because of the amount of saves he's going to get. I think that he is going to be a real hidden, not to say hidden gem, but he's going to be someone that's going to be overlooked a lot that you're going to be able to get for, you know, maybe $5-6 because most people don't count on Tampa Bay kind of sticking to specific roles because they never have. But I think Nick Anderson is going to step into that closer role this year and really, really thrive.
That's if he's the closer for the whole year.
Right. That's it.
You're going to be right. I'd say you're going to be right. But again, he has to be the closer for the full year.
100%. I mean, yeah. I mean, absolutely. Crazy Uso, Yankees team to beat in the AL East as long as they stay relatively healthy. Blue Jays made good moves. Listen, obviously, I'm a Yankee fan. I'm always going to tell you we're going to win it. Please don't discount the Tampa Bay Rays. This team is scrappy. They know how to win. They know how to win. I think the Blue Jays. Listen, I think the Blue Jays made great strides on the hitting side. Pitching is going to be a problem for them. Behind Ryu, they have nothing. Pearson is not tested yet. He's not proven yet. You have a bunch. And you know what? They are a team. There are a lot of guys out there right now, Ross, Jake Odorizzi. There are guys out there, solid pitchers out there that could make a difference on a team. The Blue Jays go and sign a guy like Odorizzi. They take that next step. Do they overjump the Yankees or the Yankees or the Jays? I mean, the Rays? No, but they'll be third. But it is what it is.
Has a lot of capabilities.
I mean, let's transition right into them. The Toronto Blue Jays. You know, again, this is kind of be like everyone's off-season sweetheart. I still think the Padres won the off-season tremendously. It's not even close. It's not even close. The Padres won the offseason. But the Blue Jays, let's give them, we'll give them the participation trophy that they finished second. Who is someone on that lineup? I know your answer because you kind of gave it away with the Rays. It's going to be Springer. But let's talk about Springer.
I just think Springer coming into that lineup is already a solid lineup. He is a professional hitter. He can hit for average. He can hit for home. He can hit home runs. He can move guys over. He can get on base. I just think Springer playing on a team that has no pressure is going to have a beast year.
Fair enough. So I'm looking at the lineup right now for the Blue Jays. And again, this is a projected lineup. Everything is going to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cavan Biggio, Springer, Bo Bichette, Teoscar Hernandez, Vlad, Semien, Gurriel, Rowdy Tellez, Danny Jansen. That actually surprises me a little bit with Semien being so far down the lineup. Semien, I think, is a far better hitter than Teoscar Hernandez. Yeah. And I just, looking at that, Bo Bichette is a guy that I know I know that the Ray is a huge fan of his, but he's good. He's going to be good. But if you're pitching to George Springer in that two-hole right now, right, does Bo Bichette scare you enough to throw strikes?
He's not the beast hitter, but he's a solid hitter. He's a good hitter, and he's dangerous. So, I mean, that's there right now. It could change. They could put Springer in the three-hole.
I saw Springer more as the leadoff. Get him, utilize his speed, utilize his on base. Set the tone so that you have the younger kids behind you, where you take a little stress off of them because now he's on the base paths. He's not. I mean, he's not a huge stolen base guy, but he'll get you 15 to 20 of them. You take that pressure off of a guy like Biggio and Bichette. Now it opens it up a little bit more. Maybe they see a few more pitches. I would put him lead off, but I'm sitting here. I'm not coaching the Jays.
I like him three. I mean, for me, my little sleeper on Toronto would be Gurriel. Lourdes Gurriel, I think, could take the next step. I believe. I mean, he's not that guy who's going to be drafted in the first 10 rounds, but later on, if he's available, in your 15, 16 round, he can get you a lot of value there.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a comment about Springer, actually, from Billy Punch. I worry about Springer playing 81 games on the turf when they go back to Toronto. Well, Billy, first and foremost is they have to get to Toronto. That's another thing. Like, how much of that is going to play a factor into it, Ross? These guys, they're the Toronto Blue Jays, but you're going to be playing in Buffalo. You're going to be playing in Florida. You're going to be playing in Guam. They're going to be playing everywhere but Toronto right now. So, I mean, does that have an effect on, like, because there's no consistency on, like, a home park and whatnot? Is that going to have an effect on these guys?
It has to have an effect on these guys because everyone likes to come home and get a break. Everyone, they want to be at it's comfort level.
Now, their home games are going to still be out of a hotel.
Now, are guys capable of not letting it bother them because baseball is baseball, and I play on the road anyway, and I hit on the road anyway? So a professional baseball player won't let that bother him. But can you take something out? Of course, you always can. But last year, did it affect guys? Guys had great years. Guys hit home runs. Guys hit for average. Pitchers struck out. Pitchers won. So did stats go down? Did numbers go down because they weren't playing in front of people? No. It was different. Certain players it affected more. But Joe, the thing is that everything's always going to affect one person and maybe make it better for the next. So
Yeah,
to
I
answer,
mean it's all
your
semantics.
question, it could have
Right.
that little bit of effect, but I don't think it's gonna matter.
It's all semantics, man. Listen, at the end of the day, let's call it what it is. These guys are all professional baseball players. Okay. They shouldn't have to it shouldn't bother them, but I'm sure it'll have an adverse effect at some point in the season. I think more fatigue of the constant moving, as opposed to kind of having that extended home stretch where they're out of their home. Now they're out of a hotel. But it is what it is. I mean, for me, I think the guy that I'm looking at to have a big season for Toronto is the guy that's kind of bounced around from position to position this year in the offseason so far, because every time he seems to be settled in his position, they sign someone else to play that position, and it's Kevin Biggio. I think Biggio, listen, the guy, you want to talk about pedigree, his father was a beast. One of the 3 Bs in Houston. Craig Biggio was an absolute monster when it came to hitting, okay? And I think that this kid has the makings of it. Listen, Toronto has it's like the dynasty team. Vlad Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio. It's like, all right, did your father played in the major leagues? All right, great. You can come play for us.
Yeah.
So, we'll sign you. I think Biggio is the guy that, again, in terms of value and sleeper, I think he's the one guy in that lineup that they're not looking at. Yes, are they sitting there right now? He's the projected leadoff hitter, and I think that if it's not Springer, it should be Biggio, because he's the most consistent of the bunch. I know, and let's see. I mean, as far as right now projected, 21 home runs, 72 RBI, 90 home runs. The problem is that average is not great. That's why I like him there, because he's hitting in front of Springer, and I think he's going to see a lot of pitches, and that's going to bump his average up. Right now, they're projecting him at 245. I see him a little bit higher than that. I have him like 265, 270, somewhere in that range. I think if he stays as a leadoff hitter. Someone to stay away from, for me, is your sleeper. I'm not that your sleeper, but your stud. I think Springer does not translate very well to the AL East. You got to remember, this guy is used to hitting in a lineup surrounded by Altuve, Bregman, Correa, Yordan Alvarez, studs. He does not have that protection in this lineup. Not yet, at least. They may turn into that, but right now they don't. And until proven that they can produce without garbage cans, I hold anyone that played on the Houston Astros accountable. I want to see them produce without garbage cans.
That's the reason I think Springer could have a good year, only because when he played in Houston, he's playing with a lot of guys that know how to hit, a lot of guys that are going to hit for power, get on base. So he has to compete in essence with his own guys. I just think in Toronto, he's going there. He's expected to be the big bat. They don't have him in the 4 hole. They don't have him in the 3 hole. They're asking him to get on base and produce. I think he should be in the 3 hole. I think he can perform there. That's why I think Springer is going to go in there with no pressure and have a good season.
I hope so. So let's move on to the next one. Our boys, the New York Yankees. I mean, you could literally just look up and down the lineup and pick a stud. That's. I mean, I think it's more difficult to pick a sleeper on this team than any other team possible. But I mean, who do you got? Like, who is the guy that you feel?
No, there's no sleeper. These are the Yankees. These are the Yankees. There are no sleepers.
No, there is a sleeper, and I will withhold my sleeper until you're ready. But there is a sleeper on this team.
Like as a possible sleeper who hasn't performed is Stanton. That's a guy that I like. Who I think
it's sick that Stanton could be considered that you could say that he's a sleeper.
Stanton, the guy could be the number 1 guy in baseball, and he's a sleeper. Only because healthy. But only because he hasn't done it yet. He hasn't done it in the past couple of years. He hasn't stayed healthy. If Stanton can stay healthy, that guy is a beast.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's listen, you look, like you said, you look up and down this lineup. It's crazy. I have 2. All right. Believe it or not, I found 2 sleepers on this team. Okay. And again, it's 2 guys. The first one, okay, is a guy who Yankee fans have been yearning to get this kid in the lineup. And he's finally going to get left field. And that's Clint Frazier. I think this kid has something special. I think that this kid has the world at his disposal, and this is going to be his coming out party. My only fear is this. The only reason why I was hesitant to name him a sleeper was because they re-signed Brett Gardner. Okay? If they did not sign Brett Gardner, send it to the house. Clint Frazier is going to have a monster year. But Gardner is going to...
Like I said again, but it's just that I just don't think he's going to have a monster year. He's going to be an adequate bat in that lineup.
I think that and that's the beauty about, and listen, again, and that's the beauty about fantasy sports, is that you're able to, look at it and say, okay, I like this guy, you don't like this guy, it's fine. The other one is a guy that has pitched a total of 1 inning in the last 2 seasons, Corey Kluber. Ross, the biggest question year in.
I love Kluber. I love Kluber all the time.
Yeah, but year in and year out, the only question ever about the Yankees is pitching. You got Garrett Cole, and then it's the bad news bears behind him, because it's a bunch of question marks.
You need guys to stay healthy. I mean, that's why for me, I would just tell people, don't overpay for Judge and Sanchez. Those guys are monsters, but
they can't stay healthy.
They're just too much of an injury risk. It's almost 95% guaranteed that they're gonna get injured and miss time. Now,
please, we made it through 4 games already, no injuries. Please don't jinx it.
It's gonna happen. If you have a big bench, and you can replace them with someone on your bench, when they're in the lineup, they're gonna be worth to have. But if you have to spend a big pick on them, or you have to spend a lot of money to get them on your team, I'm not one of those injury-prone guys. I don't like them. Unless they fall. If they fall later on, then I love injury-prone guys, because now you have value.
Right. I get it.
But Sanchez and Judge and Stanton, these guys aren't going to fall.
No, these guys are gone by the 4th round, 5th round at the absolute latest. Sanchez probably on the tail end of the 5-6 round. But
that's what I'm saying. The last guy we didn't talk about, Joe, is before we go, was Andujar. If Andujar gets regular at bats, that guy could be
traded. They need to get him in regular at bats. I agree, to get him out of New York, and not because I want him out of New York. The guy, unfortunately, does not have a spot. Third base was supposed to be his. He got hurt, and Gio Urshela has been magic.
Yes.
So it's tough to justify putting him there, and you can't do it. But let's move on, because we're slowly starting to. Huh?
You could quickly go through Baltimore, because there's nobody there from.
Listen, I'm gonna give you 2 names on the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, Baltimore Ravens. I might as well be the Baltimore Ravens, the Baltimore Orioles. You got 2 guys. Okay, I think Mancini is gonna bounce back. I think he's the feel good story. We can call it that. He's the feel good story. They're eventually going to call up their stud catcher. His name is eluding me. He's going to be the guy that comes up. For me, I think a guy that really to look at. He came on a little bit last year, is Mountcastle. I think he's a solid player. Again, you're not expecting anything from the Orioles. We can, like you said, we can kind of wrap through that. There was no one really there. It's going to be a rebuilding. You're going to see some rookies. they're going to move. The Yankees are going to beat them 26 times like they do every other year. That's all right. That's enough time. That's enough time spent on the Baltimore Orioles. I'd usually say save the best for last, but in this case, it's the worst for last.
We got the worst for last.
The worst for last. The Boston Red Sox. Oh, yuck.
All right, so we have to talk about them.
Yeah, I mean, we do. They did the Yankees a favor. They took Ottavino, and he's now their problem. That guy, the guy was doomed before he was great in Colorado. He was doomed before he walked into Yankee Stadium when prior to him signing, he said he could strike out Babe Ruth on 3 pitches. And that was the end of his credibility. And the legend of Adam Ottavino in New York was born. It was shot. I know you have a couple of guys on this lineup. I know that we've spoken about it. You have a couple of guys that you really feel strongly about. Let's get into the Boston lineup. Who's the guys you're targeting?
I think JD Martinez is going to have a nice comeback year. The guy's a perennial 300 hitter, 35, 40 home run guy. I just think JD Martinez he's the guy that I'm targeting on that team. If I can get him at an adequate price, he's on my team. The guy's a professional hitter. There's professional hitters. That guy is a professional hitter. They are blessed in the sense the Red Sox of being able to not have to work, obviously, with the DH. They've done a good job filling that outfield. I know that at some point they were looking at JD Martinez playing in left field. He's not a fielder. He is that DH guy. He's like a Nelson Cruz and those guys that are here's a bat. It's like Edgar Martinez back in the day. Here's the bat, hit the ball, get back into the bat, and that's it. Done. For me, it's as far as a guy that I'm looking at, to target. Obviously you have your Devers and your Bogarts. Those guys are, they're going to be well.
They're going to be studs. Someone that I think had a bad year last year, and I think that can have a nice bounce back year is Verdugo. Verdugo, if you remember, he was the key piece in the Mookie Betts deal with the Dodgers. I think that the kids got something. He definitely has it. He has that energy. He has that dickhead attitude that fits Boston so well. It just I hate
a full season, Joe.
He has to play a full season, but again, this is someone that I have expectations for.
He could be a sleeper category.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking me for the guy that on the Red Sox lineup that I'm going to draft and I'm going to target, it's going to be Devers. 100 times out of 100, mm-hmm. Devers. He's just a beast, and the kid's got that clutch gene, and you can't speak enough about that clutch gene because he's taken Chapman deep many a times, and it's really irked my craw. I mean, the one question that I would say with the Red Sox, they're in a worse position. The reason why I have them as the 4th best team in the line in the division right now is honestly their pitching. They don't have anyone. I mean, Eduardo Rodriguez, okay. Chris Sale, you don't know when you're getting him back. Evaldi, Martin Perez, Garrett Richards. I mean, there's not a pitcher I'm drafting off of the Red Sox. There's just not. There's nothing.
Like Eduardo Rodriguez right now, his average draft position is around 200. I like him way before that. If I can get Eduardo Rodriguez 200, I'm taking him before that anyway.
Well, I mean, listen,
Sale,
if you're getting him around the 200th pick, you're getting their ace in the 20th round, 21st round. Yeah,
he's not going to be there.
No,
he's not going to be. I'm taking him. Wait.
Listen, I'd love to know. I would love to know where they get these ADPs. Like, what lineups and drafts do they look at to generate these numbers? Because I would make millions in these leagues with these people if he's at 200th.
I want to read this. And I like Sale. I think Sale, he should be coming back maybe June. So if he's coming back in June and you're going to get him for half a season, I don't mind taking Sale late in the draft.
Right.
Because you can potentially get a stud there.
No, absolutely. I mean, we're gonna wrap it up over here. I mean, AL East. I mean, it's loaded. You really can't go wrong with anyone, unless it's a Baltimore Oriole. You can then you can go.
Yankees.
It's always the Yankees. Always the Yankees. Friday we are. Friday, we are back once again, 7:00. Ross and I with the fantasy scene, to be followed by the Smarsh and Scro Show. Friday, Ross, we're gonna move to the NL East. Okay, we're gonna go to we're gonna preview the NL East, and
about the Mets.
We're obligated to talk about the Mets for 5 minutes, and we are gonna move to second base, and we're gonna project. It's DJ LeMahieu and then everybody else. But for myself, for Ross, everyone here at the fantasy scene, thank you. Make sure, guys, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Shoot us a like and a subscribe. Thank you so much. We will see everyone Friday. Everyone have a great night and good night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.